Good morning, everybody. Tony Saracino here. Discussed the Met game last night. Today is Wednesday, May 13th. Mets coming off a good win last night against an undermanned Detroit Tiger team. Got a ton of injuries. A lot of positives to take away from the game. Mets really had to win that game last night, and not as far as standings. Obviously, they got to win games because they were 10 games under 500, but they had to win that game because Jack Flaherty, to be really fair, doesn't belong in the big leagues anymore. I mean, he was a good pitcher at one time. He's had some injuries. He really wasn't even a double-A pitcher last night. So the Mets had to come out and win that game. And they did. They took care of business. We've had some exciting things happen. And to just take away the positives from the game, Mets could have blown that game out a little sooner. Marcus Semien hit a couple balls pretty hard with some men on base. And the Mets got a little unlucky. That game's probably a blowout after the fourth inning. But the Mets did what they had to do, 3-2 after 5 innings, bottom of the sixth. Tigers throw the game away. Mets took advantage of it, which is what you're supposed to do. Peralta went out last night, pitched 6 innings. For a stretch of that game, he looked like a true ace. Dominant stuff, dominant fastball last night. The Tiger hitters really never caught up to it. He got 6 innings in. He worked hard for it, but he got 6 innings in, and he's got to get 6 innings. The Mets just cannot have their starters go 4 and 5 innings. That's been a big issue with me. So last night that worked out pretty well. We'll get more into the Met bullpen. Some of the other positives from the game. Obviously, A.J. Ewing, right? A.J. Ewing came up. It was funny because last night's podcast, I said, he had Soto leading off, which I thought was the dumbest thing you could possibly do in your lineup. I'm an old school leadoff hitter, good contact man in the number 2 hole, and then your boppers come up. I've always been that kind of guy. I'm not a big fan of seeing my best hitters bat second, but that's the way the game's gone nowadays. So I said yesterday, the Mets, they get an extra inning games. They got Soto leading off. I mean, they don't have a real leadoff hitter. Lindor's out. I don't even think Lindor is really a leadoff hitter, to be very frank with you. And all of a sudden, I mean, we knew the Mets have a decent farm system, but I'd expected them to bring up Marbito. I never thought they'd bring up A.J. Ewing right now. I mean, he's 21 years old. His numbers look very good in limited action at AAA, and he's hit at every level he's been at. But, he's 21. Well, they call him up last night. And, you don't want to wax poetic. If you remember Kevin Moss with the Yankees coming up and hitting 20 home runs, in 100 at-bats, you can get excited. I'm exaggerating on the Moss one, but you get excited. So you don't want to get too far out in front of yourself. But this kid looks like the real deal. I mean, his at-bats last night were professional at-bats, albeit against backline pitches, for the Tigers. But patience, lets the ball get deep. He's got a game plan, sees the ball incredibly well, makes contact. Tremendous speed. This kid has got to get in the leadoff spot for the Mets right now, and they may be able to take off this series. I mean, take off, now for this season. They really got to do something. And this, we're grasping at straws. If you're a Met fan, you're trying to hold on to something. This is the real deal. This is no straw. I think this kid's the real thing. Get him in the leadoff spot, get Bichette in the 2 hole, and get Soto in the 3 hole. And then you get your lefty-righty matchups with Vientos and Beatty behind them, and we got maybe Polanco gets back here someday. Lindor got to get back down in the lineup. I'm sorry. Absolutely. But this kid looked like the real deal. Tremendous athleticism, stole a base. I think, I would love to see the Mets go back to that type of traditional lineup. Last night they had him batting 8th. Okay, it's first game in the big leagues. I get it. I didn't like Alvarez hitting after him because Alvarez is a double play machine. But if the kid gets on base and steals bases, he's not going to be it's going to be pretty hard to double him up. But I would have liked to seen him hit 9th and then Benj bat leadoff. At least you would have had 2 guys like that back to back. You get Alvarez in the 8th spot, and he's not going to be hitting in the amount of double plays he normally hits into. He almost hit into one last night. Tiger shortstop made a really, really nice play just to get a force out. That could have blown the game open, too, at that point. But it's a very, very strong win last night, what I liked from the Mets. They needed to get off and really beat that Tiger team. If you don't beat that Tiger team, you're not going to win a lot of games because last night they were set up to lose that game. There's just Flaherty really just can't get anybody. I was nibbling all night. walking guys. He came into that game walking almost 7 guys per 9 innings. I mean, that's a guy who just either you're throwing really, really hard and you can't find a zone, or you're nibbling because you don't trust your stuff. And it's obvious last night that his stuff really isn't that good. So the Mets took care of business, came out last night, and beat the Tigers like they should have. They may have found something here in A.J. Ewing. I think they have. Get him in the leadoff spot. Get him in the leadoff spot. Get Bichette in the 2-hole. Get Soto 3. And let's see what the lineup does from that point. Really, I think that's the best way to go. All those guys are going to see a lot of pitches, and they're going to make pitches work. That's just the way they approach their at-bats. So I like that. I think it was a very positive win. And I try to stay positive in these things. A couple of funny things I saw last night. Can the Mets please get some type of system in for how they're going to challenge pitches? We got hitters up there challenging and they're missing by an inch, and they're blowing out their challenges in non-leverage situations. You got a 0-1 count, and, you got Met batters questioning these calls. Melendez last night, what are you doing? It's a completely irrelevant pitch. It's not irrelevant, but it's not a high leverage situation. It wasn't even, I don't even think it would have put 2 strikes on him. And he blows a challenge. Alvarez did a nice job from a catcher's standpoint, questioning the umpire twice. One of them, he turned a walk into a strikeout. That was a nice challenge right there. And Darling said it last night, and I agreed with him. Let the catchers challenge, at least put it some type of, we used to call it standing operating procedures. Just put some type of SOP in where no hitter, unless it's a really, really, really high bases loaded, 3-2 count, even a bases loaded, 2-1 count, where you can really shift an at-bat. Don't question anything before the 5th inning. Not from the hitters and not the pitchers. Let the catchers do their thing and save some, because that umpire last night didn't have a good night. If you're watching it, you got your little white box out there now, which is, we all got used to that. I kind of like that little white box. I'll tell you, he was missing pitches last night, and they didn't have any more challenges. So he's going to miss pitches if the game gets close later on. Didn't have an impact last night, but I'd like to see some of these managers. I feel like these players are just going up and just do what you want to do with it. And, after we blow our 2 pitches, our 2 challenges, then fine. But there's going to come a time where you're going to see that they're going to need. You're going to need to challenge something in the 7th or 8th inning, and you hate to see it blown on the 3rd batter of the game, with nobody on base. So I like to see, Mendoza come forward here and put something out so that these guys know. I know. I like what Freddie Freeman said, and Darling brought that up last night, how he's going to challenge or he's not going to challenge. So I think that's the way to go about it. I saw that the Mets are inducting Lee Mazzilli and Bobby Valentine into the Met Hall of Fame. I don't really think sometimes that the Mets have a very big Hall of Fame, or a good Hall of Fame for that matter. We maybe can name 9 guys who really. I'm not going to go through the 9 guys. I made a list the other day of really Met Hall of Famers, and you got to play more than 3 years for the Mets at a high level. You like to think that a Met Hall of Famer should be better than that. I liked Valentine going in. I mean, we gave Bobby a hard time, and Bobby was a smart guy, and he liked to tell you he was a smart guy. But he did a good job as a manager. He came here when the Mets were down. He brought in a positive, winning attitude. He took the Mets to the World Series. They went to 2 playoffs. After the loss to 2000 to the Yankees, in 2001 they finished over 500, and then he had a rough year in 2002, and the Mets let him go. I think he managed a total of 6 years. He won 585 games as a Met or somewhere as a manager. I'm good with that. I really am. Lee Mazzilli. Okay, a Mets starter for 5 years and a .264 batting average with 60 home runs, and he wasn't a big base. I mean, he stole some bases for a while, but I mean, Lee Mazzilli. I know he was a matinee idol for the Mets, but come on, it's not the Baseball Hall of Fame. I get it, and maybe you want to have a night for somebody. I mean, the Yankees have retired way too many numbers. I get that, and is it another night to bring fans into the park? But I just. Listen, it works. Knock yourself out. Lee Mazzilli, fine. Bring Lee in. Get him in there. Go to the Hall of Fame. If you're going to start electing or putting guys into your Hall of Fame that started for 5 years and batted 264, we go up and down the line. The Mets are going to have, you put Doug Flynn into your Hall of Fame, for crying out loud. And by the way, Doug Flynn's a great guy. I've actually played golf with him. But I mean, come on. What are we talking about here? We're going to put Steve Henderson in the Met Hall of Fame at some point. Anyway, it was a good night for the Mets last night. A lot of positives. One other negative, Alvarez. I saw the Met post game. Looks like he's going to get an MRI today. I really don't know what to think of him. He's had a history of being pretty brittle, hands and stuff. I saw the swing last night. Didn't look like he got hurt on it, but you don't know. These guys swing with such torque that he may have tore a ligament in his knee, an MCL. Could be anything. I don't really know. The Mets will find out hopefully sooner than later. Hopefully it's not a bad injury, and he'll get back on the field. I do think, the Met backup catches aren't bad. Torrens is a good catcher defensively. He doesn't have Alvarez's bat, but it may not be a bad thing. One other thing, too, which I hate to see is, so it's 6-2 after 6 innings, and the Mets got to bring in, their relievers. Just to talk about the bullpen real quick, and then I'll let everybody go. So Raley's one of their best relievers. Okay, Brazoban and Raley have been the two stalwarts in that bullpen. If you're going to start using Raley when you're up 4 runs mid-game and it's in May, you better have 4 or 5 guys you can bring in these situations. I just hate to see. I mean, he threw an inning last night, threw 18 pitches. All right, that'll be fine. I like Warren coming in. That's good. And just give you 2 solid innings. Whether he goes and he pitches 2 innings, he gives up 2 runs. By that point, the game's 10-2, 8-2 at one point. That's fine. I hate to see them use these guys because by July, their arm is hanging off. It's held together with Scotch tape and thumbtacks. And if you're not going to blow teams out quickly, or you're not going to get blown out yourself, you're not going to bring Minaya in the game or some of their other low-leverage guys. But you got to have some guys who can go out there and fill those innings to see how the game can unfold a little bit more. I mean, I feel like the Mets always have to make a decision on their bullpen by the 4th inning or the 5th inning, and a good manager will. But, I mean, you're bringing in your better relievers. And we saw this happen last year, so I'm a little sensitive. And I've seen this happen with a bunch of other major league teams where they lose their better relievers just for fatigue. These arms just don't bounce back. So I saw Raley come in the game last night. It was 6-2. All right. Raley is 38 years old. He's not a young guy. I don't know if everybody knows how old Raley is, but he's not young. So he's out there throwing. I'd like to see, he's pitching incredibly well right now. I'd like to see him get innings in games where it's 5-3, 2-1 in the 7th. 6-2. It's May. I know the Mets got to win every game right now that they can, and they had to win last night's game. They couldn't lose against what the Tigers were throwing out there, but you're up by 4 runs at that point. You should have a pretty good chance to win the game with any pitcher that you bring in. But they went with him last night. That's fine. That's kind of a small critique. It was a good win for the Mets last night. We got the games today. I should take a look and just tell you real quick who's starting for the Mets for today's games. Wednesday, May 13th. The Mets, let's just hold on here. All right, so we got Christian Scott on the mound. I'd love to see him go at least 6 innings or pitch into the 7th if that's ever possible. That's sometimes a pipe dream. Valdez is coming back for the Tigers. He's been injured too. Tigers they got a MASH unit out there right now. They got the walking wounded. The Red Cross is sitting in that dugout. That's how many guys the Tigers have lost right now. But Valdez is coming back tonight. Let's hope that they go with a lineup. Put A.J. Ewing in the leadoff spot. I don't care that he's a rookie. Get him up there. Let's see what happens today. They don't have a real leadoff hitter. Benj is not really a leadoff hitter. Okay, he's got some pop. He's also really doesn't have the same, at least he's not off to the same, or has the potential to have the same type of start. I think A.J. Ewing come up here right now and bat 300. That's rare in the big leagues. And I think what's more is if he hits 270 or 280, I think he can come out and get a 350, 360 on base percentage. And with that speed, I think he creates some havoc at top of the lineup. So on to tonight. Mets got to win. I'm Tony Saraceno, and we'll see you after the Met game. Take care.